The controversy relates to a subject matter which is already under investigation with the CBI. That the original promoters were arm twisted at the behest of a minister in the government to transfer the shareholding to a Singapore-based company called the Maxis. I am not getting into all those facts. But there are three facts of that transaction which are relevant for the FIPB clearance. The first fact was that the FDI limit in telecom sector is 74%. And therefore it was normally expected that the maximum sale that would take place would be 74%.
Okay.
In this case, the sale takes place of almost 100% of the equity. 99.3% of the equity. The second factor, that the amount of money at which the whole transaction takes place is in the vicinity of about 5,000 crores. Ordinarily, 26% which was transferred to an Indian shareholder should have been in the vicinity of about 1,200 crores. It is transferred for an amount of rupees 34 crores. It's a disproportionately low amount. Thirdly, as far as Maxis is concerned, they had contemporaneously in 2006 informed through their merchant bankers, the Singapore Stock Exchange, that they intended to acquire almost 100%. In the face of these three facts, a legitimate doubt appears that the Indian nominee could only be a front, and that this was really an acquisition through a front of the entire 100%. In view of this doubt, if the papers are placed before this House, the FIPB clearance had to clear all these facts. And it was highly doubtful whether such a permission could have been granted, because prima facie the facts did indicate that the transfer was not of 74, but breaching the FDI guidelines, it was a transfer of 99.3 or even more of that percentage. That's a matter which can be separately dealt with, whether the FIPB clearance was rightly or wrongly granted. But what appears to have raised some doubts is, on the eve of the FIPB clearance, and I do not know whether the Honourable Minister is fully aware of this, some transactions have taken place between the company transferring the shares and somebody connected to the Honourable Minister. I will refrain from taking any names. The nature of that transaction is, and this is borne out by the annual reports of various companies, that there is a company by the name of Osbridge Holding and Investment Private Limited. These facts have been mentioned in the media. The person connected owns, as of 2006, 18,000 out of the 19,000 shares in that company. That's 94% holding. This company also has transactions with another company which is called Advantage Strategic Consultant Private Limited. Now, on the eve of this transfer taking place and the FIPB clearance being applied for and being granted, you suddenly find from the balance sheet of 2006 of Advantage, there is a payment of a certain amount, 26,444,000, a calculated amount, not a broad amount, made to Aircel Televentures Limited. On the same balance sheet, there are three other payments. These three other payments are made to Chess Management Service Private Limited, Chess Healthcare Solution Private Limited, Halidon Marketing Private Limited. These are all companies concerned with the same gentleman whose name I am not taking. So in 2006, this connectivity was established. Now the balance sheets available in the annual reports also indicate that Osbridge owns 66.67% shares of Advantage. When this payment of 26 lakh odd is paid to Aircel, there is a corresponding increase of 1,80,000 shares in the share capital of Aircel. Whether shares are eventually issued or not issued is a separate issue. Now, these are documents which have come into public domain. The connection of these two companies, and the more I get the document, the connection becomes all the more suspicious. In 2006, what was the connection between Osbridge and Advantage? The annual return of 2006-07 of Osbridge is their email ID is also the same as the email ID of Advantage. Shareholding connections, payment connections, email ID connections. Now here is a case, and I am just placing the case in a nutshell, and my case is a little different from what appeared in some newspapers. Whether there is delay or there is no delay, that's a separate issue, I am not going into it. There was a highly doubtful FIPB clearance which may or may not have been granted. Did somebody concerned with the Honorable Minister have any financial transactions through a corporate mask with the companies which were involved in this transaction? If that is so, it raises serious doubts, and if that is not so, this particular doubt in my mind really ought to be clear. Thank you. So let me reiterate, because there are a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of additional questions which arise on basis of what the Honorable Minister has said. Our concern is not to really hold a dagger into somebody's heart. Our interest only is that the purity and fairness of governance must be maintained. That's the limited objective. That limited object is, for the facts which I will not repeat, this was a highly doubtful FIPB clearance. On the eve of this FIPB clearance, any of the parties, the investee or the investor, should not directly or indirectly be indulging in a business relationship with anybody close to the minister's family. That's all.
Please yield for a minute. I have made it clear that in 2006, Advantage Consulting alone, promoted by two promoters, had a commercial transaction for 26,444,000 rupees plus TDS with Aircel Limited. And in 2006, Osbridge had no connection, and they have issued a legal notice saying to allege that Osbridge had a connection with Advantage Consulting is totally wrong. They made a passive investment 5 years later in 2011.
Let me straight away tell you why I disbelieve that explanation.
Get equity by paying partly paid up shares, not even fully paid up shares.
Let me now straight away, sir, inform the Minister why I find this as an unconvincing explanation. Companies are floated, friends are shareholders, you enter the company on a later date. 6 years later, when we are reinvestigating the fact, you have to look at the footprints that they've left behind. The Minister's case is, Osbridge was admittedly a company in which his family members had 94% shares. Osbridge's connection with Advantage started in 2011. Therefore, cannot impinge on a 2006 transaction. That's the case. I hold in my hand the return of Osbridge, the annual return to the ROC for the year 2006-2007. So it was Osbridge which didn't know of Advantage in 2006-2007. In this return, Osbridge gives its address. And if you look at some of the 2G charge sheets, this has been considered in some of them as a clinching evidence to show connection between the two companies. What is its own address that Osbridge gives in 2006? advantageconsultants@gmail.com. This is 2006. In 2006, what is the Advantage Strategic Consultants Private Limited's email ID? I hold their letterhead of that period. www.advantageconsultants.com. The same email ID. So these are companies which have a connection with each other in 2006. They share the same address. Now what is the connection of these companies? Osbridge, admittedly in 2006 you had the shareholding. In 2006, Advantage's other transactions by which Advantage paid Aircel, I do not accept prima facie this theory of consultancy. For the simple common sense logic, if I give consultancy to somebody, he should be paying me. My balance sheet should not disclose a loan and an advance to him. Please, let me just show the balance sheet. The contemporaneous balance sheet of 2006 of Advantage shows under what head? Loans and advances. So in 2006, advance has been given or a loan has been given to whom? Aircel Televentures Limited. In 2006, a loan and an advance has been given. This is the balance sheet file. And today we are being told, we gave consultancy to Aircel. Aircel has paid us. Well, Aircel may have paid you for the consultancy, but your balance sheet shows quite to the opposite, that this was a loan and advance from you to Aircel. And who are the other companies to which Advantage is giving loans and advances? In 2006, all three companies controlled by the same person with which you are connected: Chess Management Services Private Limited, Chess Healthcare Solutions Private Limited, Halidon Marketing Private Limited. My case, sir, is, did on the eve of this FIPP clearance, which is highly doubtful, companies with which the gentleman I am not naming was concerned, connected, was this investee dealing with those? What was the nature of this financial transaction? And if there was such a dealing, then this further vitiates this FIPP clearance which has been granted, and it raises serious doubts which I am afraid have not been cleared.